Next up is a personal friend of mine, and we haven't met for way too long. That must have been integrated 2 years ago. That's Nino, our richest friends from Italy. Let me shortly introduce him. An important part of integrating systems is securing these integrations. So Nino shares his hands-on experience to provide the best security baseline for integration. He examines logic apps, Power Apps, Azure Functions, and many other, and provides the best recommendations to deliver solid integration solutions. Please welcome to you, Nino.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Lex, for the introduction. It is a great pleasure for me to be here, especially because Integrate, I mean, we start Integrate, me, Saravana, Steve, Jen, Sandro, and Tord. So it's nice to see, nice to be here every year, you know, with this nice, amazing event. Something about myself, I'm Solution Director in Hitachi Solution. I joined Hitachi like just 1 week ago, so it's very fresh news for everybody. I'm Microsoft Azure MVP since 2006, and I'm certified ethical hacker. I have MSc in cybersecurity. I'm very keen about cybersecurity. I've been just here at the bottom, just another news. I've been member now and been awarded as inside the Hall of Fame for the EC Council for Certificate Ethical Hacking for 2021. So it's a great pleasure and satisfaction. Something about what I'm doing now in Hitachi Solution. So it's actually something that is also related about the session. In Hitachi Solution, I'm really keen about say is we work very close with Microsoft. We are very focused about using Microsoft technology. We work a lot in Azure and in all the areas, I mean, strategic area inside Azure. We have different cloud solutions, an area where we are working with. And this is some of the area and the main area where I'm actually going to work during my job. So we have cloud native apps. We are very focused on enterprise integration. This is one of the reasons why I'm very happy to be here. We have a lot of experience. We work a lot in Azure in development operation, and we have this concept about cloud enablement. About enterprise integration, we actually have our own framework. Integration framework is very nice. It's very well done. And we are always investing and doing a lot of things inside and using, as you can see, a lot of technologies between function, logic app, even grid, Power BI. We are doing a lot here, and I'm personally going to do a lot in this area. So we will have a lot more in the future about integration from my person. So I'm happy to say that I'm back in the integration space a lot. About the other area, about the cloud enablement, which is something absolutely enabled with the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. So it's actually, we are going to engage, of course, the same, I would say, methodologies from Microsoft. We work together. So we have governance, compliance, networking, monitoring, cost management. Security is, of course, one of the topics. And this is, of course, one of the things we are going to speak in this session. Why security is so important? Because actually, without security, you cannot do almost everything, I would say, in any kind of situation. Well, first of all, first we jump in this session. It will be a very energetic and practical session. I give you a warning. Some of the things you are going to hear in this session can be quite dangerous things. So keep just this as your personal experimentation and be careful when you're going to experiment this kind of technique. Just to give an idea, because I don't have, I mean, I suppose we have a big audience in Integrate. So there are people that really know a lot about security, other people maybe not so much. So let's keep an interesting introduction, the hacking evolution. The hacking evolution between on-premise and cloud is drastically changed. On the left, you can see the evolution from on-premise when we actually, the hacking point and the surface was a kind of distributed, where we had a lot of different endpoint, which is something like, different kind of access. We have different kind of Active Directory, I would say, access point or different endpoint. Completely different things is going to be with the cloud, because with the cloud, we have completely different concept of accounting. In a cloud, there is, as you can see in the slide, to give you a very clear example, to give you a good understanding, we have one account, which is the global admin account. The global admin account is the top account in the cloud. If we get hacked in this account, then I would say, without any doubt, the entire cloud infrastructure is going to be compromised. This is why it's so different the way we approach security inside the cloud instead of the on-premise. Of course, integration is going to be affected on that. The most used attack are social engineering, malware, phishing. I would say the other shoulder suffering is when a person is going back to you and looking about what you're doing in the monitor. Sometimes we're just working, we don't care about people on our back, but actually this is things, very, very serious things. We need to be careful about the working place, how we work. Of course, malware and phishing are the most used. The most wanted attack, target attack are for sure human. Human is for sure, because human is weak. We know that we are weak sometimes, and we don't look about security so much, or we underestimate our people or colleague or our environment, everything. And so this is why human is very, very vulnerable, I would say, target. Infrastructure, of course, a lot, especially when local cloud credential, when we store credentialing in our storage everywhere, code bugs inside the code, and cloud misconfiguration. That is one very common one, where we are actually going to, use a bad configuration. Usually this is because we don't have a lot of knowledge about what we are doing inside the cloud. We first need to understand this concept. This is a classic integration environment where we have logic app, application API gateway, development portal. We have a lot of things inside here. So we have also backend system, software as a service, and we have the shared service we use like a T directory, key vault, everything. So when we look at this, and we have developer, IT administrator, when we look at this, this is how we need to look about the attack surface. And we start thinking about, okay, when we can be hacked, when we can get hacked, what exactly can be one of the points? Of course, we can look about and say, okay, it can be external endpoint. They can try hack through the API gateway. They can do wherever is internal attack, everything. But sometimes we underestimate some of the very little things, which maybe can be very dangerous. So let me show you this one. This one is actually, you can see on the top, IT administrator, where I put PowerShell, which actually is a tool very used. We use a lot to deploy a lot of things inside, also for administration, in our integration project, everywhere. But actually, PowerShell can be a very big weakness. Let me show you this attack, which is called local cloud credential. So this is an administrator. The administrator is going to use PowerShell. I need to tell you something here. This kind of attack is an attack which actually able to work with multi-factor authentication, is working in Microsoft Azure, is also working in AWS. And in AWS, even worse than in Microsoft Azure. So let's keep going. Also Office 365. So our IT administrator is connected using classic connected Z account, is connected to the cloud. And when it's going to connect it to the cloud, PowerShell is going to share our token and save our token in our machine. Okay, this is why local store cloud credential. Actually, our credential is going to be stored inside our machine. Well, what I'm telling you is something you can find in MSDN. Okay, and this is how I started looking about this kind of attack, because I got this kind of information inside MSDN. I start thinking, well, if the token is going to be shared inside the machine, what I can do? Well, I can use the token. I can take the token from Bob. Okay, so I don't need username and password. I just use the token. I impersonate Bob using the Bob token, and I'm going to create a backdoor inside the cloud, which is a principal account. When I have the principal account, I can log inside the cloud using the principal account. If Bob is a global administrator, then it's going to be a very, very nasty situation. And another important thing, this attack, it can be done in many ways, directly inside the machine of the global administrator, or the hacker, it can just steal the file token from the machine. It can do exactly the same attack in other place, even at home. That's not a problem. Of course, before the token is going to expire. Let me show you very briefly this attack because it's very fascinating to see. This is the connector. So this is how it's going to be the first connectivity for the account. This is where is going to be executed the script, where we are going to set as a content. This is where I'm going to impersonate Bob. And here I'm going to create the service principal account. And here I'm going to show username and password. This one is the third script where I'm going to execute. So it's the login using the backdoor, using the get credential, and going just for demo purpose create resource group name like Boogeyman was year 22. So let's jump in with the first one. So this one is actually the administrator, which is going to log inside the cloud. And now actually the login, the administrator will start logging, and doing the job. At this moment, the PowerShell just cached the token in our folder. So what the hacker is going to do? You see, there is also this curious message, share a token authentication unavailable, which is actually at the moment not true because I can do that. Let's jump in. Now actually conducting the attack. So of course I can do much more complex scripting on that. This is just for demo purpose to give you an idea what exactly is going on. And this is actually username and password. So I save this, I put this one just in a notepad so you can look about how it's going to work in a second wave. Okay. And after that, I'm going to execute the third script. So the third script is going to actually do the get credential. And now I'm going to log inside the cloud using this and using the backdoor and creating my resource group. As you can see, it's very easy attack. Think about anyone can access to your laptop or wherever. It can be very nasty attack. So actually, I log now with my principal account, and I'm going to create the resource group. And I created the resource group. So what's happening in there very, very, very quickly has been created an application registration, which is actually then a service principal account. And I named this Power BI extender. So when IT administrator is going to check, he's going to think, this is a Power BI, principal account, which is actually not true because this is actually being created by a hacker. If we are going, because I know people will ask me about that. So this is what actually is going to be. This is the role assigned to this account, application administrator and cloud application administrator. And actually this account has no permission inside the subscription. I mean, a role-based ASCII security role, but because this role is actually able to create this resource group. As you can see, this is actually a scary attack. This is very simple to conduct, right? So many people thinking about, okay, I'm working integration space and they're going to attack me externally, maybe, or internally, which is true, right? I show you now one of the most nasty attack, which actually is this one from the PowerShell. So never underestimate any kind of attack or type of attack in your integration space or area. The attack sources can be two types, of course, external or, as you can see, internal. The internal attack are absolutely the most nasty attack. So let's see now and give you some good, I would say, advice about a good security baseline for integration. This, I mean, I'm speaking about my experience. I'm sure it's going to be very useful for you. Let's jump in about the runtime security. Externally, we have a lot of things externally we can use. We can use OAuth 2.0. We can use Active Directory authentication. We have shared key access. We can also have OAuth 2.0 OpenID Connect for anything. So it can be even if we use or authenticate using different or external application authentication or vanilla OAuth 2.0 authentication approach, this is extremely secure. And of course, like the Azure Active Directory is the best one, because using, of course, by API apps, web apps, mobile apps, we also, Microsoft Azure is also supporting SSO and federation, so it's extremely, extremely good. Something that I absolutely recommend. About Logic App and Cyber and Service Bus, shared access key is, of course, one of the best and one of the most used at all. One of the good things I would say for Logic App is, Logic App, and not just Logic App, is the endpoint security approach. This is something that I always recommend. Something that I absolutely recommend in your integration solution: keep abstract as much as you can your integration stack. The best Azure stack you can use is API management. I love API management because it's so full of many amazing and crazy features. I just literally love the policies API management. You can do a lot of things using policy. You can do encryption. You can sign your message. I mean, I would say API management is the first layer which is going actually to give you the much highest defend, where you can put some of the, I would say, nicer feature like signature messages, something I recommend inside your integration solution. People sometimes approach using signature in a second step after the API management. I absolutely recommend to do all this kind of operation inside the API management, also because it's extremely performance doing this operation, right? Apart from that, I would say this other point: enable IP filtering for Logic App and triggers. We use Logic App. I love Logic App because it's actually a very smart technology stack. We're actually using Logic App. We can do easily, create the flows, all these kind of things. It's very handy. People really enjoy. I had a customer and engaging with him and was telling me, hey, Nino, we really like Logic App because it's very handy. We can just move from a mindset like Bestalk. Historically, I was a Bestalk guy, the famous Bestalk Grinch, as people like to call me. Actually, Logic App, remember a lot Bestalk approach with orchestration, all these kind of things. It's very easy to handle, to manage everything. Of course, there are something we need to keep in mind, because everything easy to use. It can always be, managing security. And one of the things is protect using, for example, one good baseline, IP filtering, okay? This other point, any Logic App or request, everything HTTP3 should never be able to be called by anything other than API management or Logic App. So, sorry, that's my dog. I cannot stop my dog. He's just crazy. So let me close this door. Sorry about that. This is the live effect. So we need to be careful. And this is very important point as a security baseline. We need to be sure that just the internal technology, they can call each other, not any other external factor can actually access to our Logic App or wherever function, or wherever it is. So absolutely enable this functionality. And enable IP filtering, of course, also for runtime logs, because people can access to your log and can look about what exactly is going on. But how we can organize that also, right? Because I'm speaking about API management, I'm speaking about everything, but we can organize and centralize our security in our integration stack. This is a very clear example for you people. You see here, we have a lot of integration stack. We have API management, front door, traffic manager, monitoring, everything. What I recommend usually is keep one subscription, like I like to call the base subscription, where you're going to drive all your on-premise access for your integration stack, everything from any on-premise around the world, Europe, UK, wherever it is, or on-premise data center, into this base of subscription. In this base subscription, you're going to manage your shared access. We can be API management, express route, front door. We know that for API management, especially when you are going to enjoy, the highest SKU for API management, logic app like IC, and all these kind of very interesting proposal from Microsoft, then we can also save some money because we actually use a single subscription, to manage our security, and using one essential advanced SKU for API management in one single subscription. And we can do some of we also centralize our security control on that, right? So that is a very good advice I'm giving you. Keep in mind this slide because you can actually organize something in a smart way like that. And from our base subscription, you just go via VNet peering to the other subscription inside your organization or your company. Like you organize your subscription in any way, depending by your business. In this case, I put by region because network is depending a lot by region. But anyway, you can even use a different approach. And so different subscription by VNet. All right. So let's keep going always in this discussion about security isolation, security control, security centralization. And we also have another nice topic now, which is the network isolation. It's something that I actually recommend to use. So we can use integration service environment now is an offer from Microsoft. It's something I recommend if you really want to be secure in your integration solution. So what is going to offer you? It's going to offer the possibility to isolate your integration solution inside a virtual network. And because it's a virtual network, I can start using completely isolate my integration solution using technologies like ExpressRoute or site-to-site VPN, which are, of course, the two most, I would say, advanced security isolation. ExpressRoute from site-to-site VPN, I just tell it to the people because sometimes there is a kind of always know what exactly is the pro and the pros about ExpressRoute, which is of course a bit more expensive than site-to-site VPN. ExpressRoute, actually, you are going to join the Microsoft Azure backbone. The Azure backbone is the internal Azure network inside Azure. So when you use ExpressRoute, you join this backbone and you have the high top performance you can ever using Microsoft Azure. So if you want to be at the top of the top, then it's going to be the configuration you can have. So ICE environment, virtual networking, ExpressRoute, you are, in my opinion, at the overtop for security and performances. Even speaking about internal, now we have a chat about external. Let's just jump in now internally. Something I'm always keen about integration, development, all these kind of things. One of my best recommendations is a security baseline. Use manage identity. Use manage identity. Sometimes you see people say, okay, we use managed identity. What exactly is managed identity? What is going to provide me? What exactly is the difference now? I like to give you now a very clear picture about the different kind of authentication approach you can use. This is the classic authentication internal approach we use across our application, where we have our application code, everything can be logic app, wherever it is. We have our authentication key, and our process is going to authenticate directly with the key inside our application to a backend. I just put SQL Server here. It can be any kind of backend. Of course, it is not good because the keys and the secret are actually inside the code, right? So let's jump in a second one. Why do we use Azure Key Vault? Azure Key Vault is a very nice approach, is very good approach because everything has been stored inside the Key Vault. So we authenticate to the Key Vault, and to the Key Vault, we get the keys is going to the code, to the application, and we use this key to authenticate. We can be a connection string to the database, which is good because everything has been stored in the Key Vault. There is one weak point here, which is actually we need to use authentication method to authenticate to the Key Vault. So if someone is going to authenticate in our Key Vault, of course, is going to compromise everything, right? So we still have a weak point. Let's jump in now in managed identity. What managed identity is going to give us? We have our logic app flow. It can be function because managed identity is actually now being provided by a lot of different Azure stack. Microsoft is investing a lot in here, in Azure function, even Grid, wherever. They are actually pushing this managed identity methodology everywhere. So we actually going to create directly from our artifact, which can be a logic app, and manage identity. When we create a managed identity, behind the scene is going to be created, as you can see here, a service principal account. So the application is actually going to use a service principal account to authenticate to our backend. Okay, the interesting things here is that we actually, nobody, any developer, IT administrator, nobody inside the company is actually aware about any kind of sensitive information, connection string to the database, username and password, nothing, because it's actually a service principal account behind the scene. So this is the top level internal security authentication you can use across your services. If you are not using managed identity right now in your integration solution, you need to go and just straight start using this right now. These are absolutely a must for a security baseline for integration. We have two different type of managed identity, which is actually a system assigned, which is this one. Everything is going to be, as you can see here, managed by the system. So when we are going to delete, I don't know, our logic app, everything is going to be deleted. Also the service principal account. Same concept for the user assign. The difference is we can use the user assign across multiple different systems. So of course, it's more useful. The cons, we need to manage the service principal account. So if we delete something here like the logic app or Azure function, we need to remember to clean up the service principal account that has been created behind the scene. And it's working also in on-premise side, of course. So we can use the user assign service principal, and from the user assign service principal, we can actually use the service principal behind the scene is going to use a key vault, and the key vault, which is going to be stored, user credential, everything, is going to authenticate in our on-premise environment. So even in on-premise a hybrid scenario, we can use managed identity. All right. Well, let's jump in also in another topic now, which is managed identity, a good security baseline. Another good thing about security baseline: use the proper tool. Use the proper tool to check everything. One of the best tools I recommend is OWASP ZAP. I used for Azure function. I use also for logic app, web app, all these kind of things. Is this free? Just check in OWASP ZAP in Google. Is a very, very strong API interface with tons of API calls. It's also integrated with DevOps. DevOps is one of the also surface attack. because actually people can act in our DevOps, do very crazy things. So this is why we also need to protect DevOps, but we can also use DevOps for automation security. OWASP ZAP is amazing. OWASP ZAP, we don't have time now, but you can actually do active scanning for your logic apps when you expose, HTTP triggers, everything, and many other things, Azure function, coding, all these kind of things. And there are many other tools like this one, like DevMap and Map, SQL Map. I just put here in the slides, but you can check in internet, because these are really good because you can easily integrate with DevOps, like for SQL injection, hide a demo with Logic App, checking a SQL injection attack and using SQL Map to scan the Logic apps and get the SQL injection attack. So it's very interesting. Look in Google about that. So speaking about Logic App, because we're speaking about Logic App a lot, and recently I had a look a lot in Logic App on one of the projects, so I look a lot inside the security here. One of the big point about Logic App is you need to be careful who is going to get access to your Logic App. This is what my first point for me, because when you engage with the Logic App, you can actually go inside the Logic App, you can look about the designer, you can look about the history inside, you can debug. You have a lot of nice features inside Logic App, all right? So the point is, okay, but you also need to control all of this, because actually you can get hacked. Not authorized people can look about your Logic App flow, everything, get information. Think about this, guys. Imagine you have a Logic App, you have your flow, all right? And think about the people have access to your Logic App and have access to your flow. Even in DevOps, where you have your AMP template, you are going to deploy, or your Visual Studio with AMP template, you're going to deploy your Logic App, everything. Think about the people can have access to this AMP template or can export AMP template from your Logic App from the portal. And what they can do, they can look about your template, and maybe they can even change the flow in your template, and maybe change in approval or payment approval in different way, right? So you always need to think about any kind of possible things. So this is why the Microsoft team implement these kind of roles with Logic App contributor and operator, where you have to handle with these things. Well, the contributor let you manage Logic App, but actually you cannot access to Logic App. So they can actually do these kind of things in Logic App external, but they cannot access to the flow. Or even the operator, where they can read, they can enable or disable Logic App, but they cannot edit. They cannot update the Logic App. They cannot do these kind of things. That's really important. Other things is restrict the access by IP address. Okay, this is one of the most powerful things that we can do, especially internally, because if we work internal, we know the IP address is going to have access to the Logic App or function or wherever, and we can actually restrict that. Another interesting things I found and I really like was about restricting the possibility to read information inside the flow. And this is something you can actually do. You can secure your data in the run history. That was something that was annoying me at some point, because I was looking in the history and saying, oh, come on, I can read this, I can read that. So I started looking, of course, and checking in deep. And actually I found this feature is very nice one. What is going to be is you are going the setting. So you are actually in the flow in your Logic App, you are going the setting, the three dots on the top, you can just click in there. If you click in setting, you jump in this handy, I would say, setting windows where you can enable secure input, secure output. If you put this one in on, then what is going to be behind the scene, of course, the flow is going to use REST encryption for that, which is something crucial now in Azure, and Azure provide a lot, and Key Vault. And after that, we are not even able anymore to look about the security information. And we got this message. That's amazing. Content not showed during the security configuration. I can sleep well because the people cannot have access to all of this. And all of these features never underestimate, because all these features, they are actually very important feature, especially when you jump in situation, crazy situation when you need to achieve compliance, certification. And I can tell you, in some project I've been, some certification level, and they are crazy. They are going to ask you so many things. And without this kind of feature, you cannot handle these kind of things. That's impossible. One of those is, I don't know how many of you are aware about the level 5 isolation guidance. This is something that I literally love from, because Microsoft now introduced the possibility and to providing crazy, amazing feature, which is going to be absolutely easy to achieve level 5 isolation guidance, which is something, for instance, if you're going to work with military, public sector, especially when you are going to work with the government, a very high security level, military, all these kind of people, when they're going to ask you, hey, we really need level 5 isolation here, then you really need to have the good feature inside able to provide you that. So how you can achieve something like that? You can do this using, this is some of the guidance, actually, as you are reading here, this is some of the guidance you have to follow up. Like, for instance, transformation. I love liquid template. I love liquid template. It's amazing. It's amazing. XSLT, for me, it was a nightmare. When it was integration with Bespoke, everything, struggling. XSLT was not really, I would say, handful for me. Liquid template is so amazing. It's a semantic language for transformation. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then where I'm going to use that? You can use liquid template inside Logic App. You can also use liquid template in Azure function. And this is one of the recommendations I'm giving you, especially if you want to go in level 5 isolation guidance. You need to do your transformation inside the Azure function. When you use environment, it can be Logic App, everything, wherever it is, use application service environment. They are going to give you a full isolation, as I mentioned you, full isolation. This is something you need to achieve. If you use application service environment, it's very easy. You just enable application service environment, create a virtual network, and you are full isolated. Cool, very easy to do, very handy. And about the private endpoint, I mentioned you the private endpoint. This is why I mentioned you about the private endpoint, because you have to do that if you want to achieve some kind, of very high level isolation, security isolation in your integration solution. And about Key Vault, of course, use Key Vault to manage your key. This is a must. If you don't do that, you cannot achieve this kind of isolation, and you must use encryption at rest. Another handy thing you must use is policies. Why policy? Because using policy, you can actually force the use of those. This is why policy is going to be extremely important. People many times underestimate these kind of things because they say, yeah, I'm going to use AAC, I'm going to use this, I'm going to use that. But one thing is going to write down the documentation as a best practice, which are good things. You have to do that. You need to write down your guidance documentation for your developer. But this is not guaranteed that your developer is actually going to do that. So how you're going to force your developer, even your architecture, everybody to use all these features inside the cloud? Then you need to use policy. Using the policy, you can create policies. You already have policies. You see about Logic App, you have a lot of policy API management. You can easily access to this policy here. So if you go here in the portal and you go in policies, you check in here and you have the definition about the policies policy definition, where you actually have, you define your policy. And after you define your policy, you can see there are a lot of built-in policies provided by Microsoft. You can see API management. You see API management. There's a lot of things. API apps. There are so many things, Logic App. And you can actually, after that, assign your policy, and it's very easy to do. So you check your policy, you assign your policy, or which kind of level you want to assign for a specific resource group, a project, or a subscription. And when you do that, you're actually going to force people following your guidance. This is why policy is a security baseline. You must use policy in your security baseline. And actually, policy is what you need to use to design and to force your security baseline in your cloud infrastructure, right? Okay. A last thing, and last point I mentioned, it just was a mention, is the Azure encryption at rest. I mention you that because I think it's very important. Azure encryption at rest, it's working through Active Directory. Through Active Directory, we are actually able to drive to the key vault. And from the key vault, we are able to Azure is able to provide and create encryption key, everything, and able to encrypt any kind of technology inside Azure. You have to know that actually encryption at rest has been provided by Microsoft in many areas. Anything you store inside Azure, I mean, for storage account, is encrypted, right? Many people know about that. So there are some people that ignore these kind of things, but actually it's true, right? So because Microsoft Azure is actually already compliance for a lot of things, just because it's actually providing you encryption at rest by design. But you can always enable encryption at rest in a lot of different things, SQL Server, Cosmos DB, any other storage. So encryption at rest is absolutely a baseline to follow in any integration solution. You cannot ignore this topic. You can check about that. There is a lot of documentation. You can check on internet. Microsoft providing a lot of documentation on that. Something I recommend you is this one. Very, very important topic here is this one. Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure. Look at this website, people, because this website is containing so much. It's giving you everything, ideas about how to use the cloud, the journey inside the cloud, the best practice, the governance, the practice about encryption at rest, integration things, a lot of things. So just look about this one, and you will find so much material, so much things. For me, myself, this is one of my, I would say, big pillar now. I'm always here looking at some documentation, all these kind of things, because so much material. It's very well done. So look, and there are a lot of tools inside here you can actually use in your solution for that. All right. So I just put a last slide for a demo, but in case I was just finished my session before the time, I see there is 1 minute, so we can stop. And I think it is. I hope I gave you nice, I think, useful information. And I'm okay with the Q&A. If you have any question, feel free to send me any email. Nino.crudele@live.com. You can find me in LinkedIn, Google. Just write down Nino Crudele. You can find me, of course, everywhere. And feel free to contact me if you have any question. Otherwise, thank you very much for having me here and for joining my session.
Well, thank you very much, Nino, as always. We have, well, we can extend a couple of minutes. We have a break of 15 minutes, so okay. We can still take a couple of questions. Okay. I don't know if you can see the questions yourself.
Where are? Let me see.
Yeah, back in the portal.
In the portal. Integration, you mean? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it integrates. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, where are we? Yeah, exactly. There you are. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Here. Okay. Q&A.
Q&A.
Is obfuscation also masked in Microsoft internal logs? Nope. But you can actually protect your logs. So this is the point. So you really need to be careful about who is going to access to your internal logs. Okay. Mentioning this hoping from Microsoft considering security.
I think you need to scroll up a little bit. This is the low part.
Oh gosh. Oh
yeah,
my gosh. You think any
more.
integration security mean makes sense? Depending on integration. Hey, Steve. That's dear friend. Yeah, you have. Yeah, that's a very good question. You must have a security person. You must have a security team. I absolutely. That's a security. Another good security baseline point. You must have a security administrator, a person specialized in security, and with a good certification about security, of course. I have very sensitive data. I was wondering that Microsoft does protect Azure account from insider attack themselves. Is there anything I should consider to protect myself? Okay, the best recommendation here: don't trust anyone. Zero trust, which actually the same things and the same methodology used by Microsoft. Is zero trust. Don't trust anyone. Don't even trust yourself. So protect, authenticate everything, less priority access everywhere. This is the best defense you can use. This is not possible with MFA. I mean, maybe is mentioned about the attack. No, it is possible also using MFA. Yes, it is. I tried this and it was possible. Will can Azure add repression identity management to prevent this backdoor attack? Nope, because actually the attack is going to be external. So actually is the person using PowerShell. So something I recommend, good this question, you need to avoid people as much as you can, avoid people using PowerShell from the laptop. If you're using even the AWS, using PuTTY or these kind of tools, use here in the portal, the share portal, which is actually a very nice feature, the Cloud Shell, for instance. Okay, this is really nice feature. You can also use oh geez, man, my brain now is you can use internal backdoor machine. So don't let people to use their own laptop, own machine from home, office, everything using this tool. This is not a good practice at all. Elaborate on Senator, on primitive management. So something security speaking, okay? Think about a payment process for a bank. You need to be extremely secure, right? Especially internally, not just external. So you receive a message, a payment message from an external system. You get the message. One of the things you need to be secure, you need to be sure about your message, and is actually, security speaking, is actually nobody and never your message, it can be tempered or changed in any way. There is no way you can do that without a signature, right? So you need to sign this message in the moment you receive the message in your integration stack. So the best thing to do that is very performance is API management. You receive the message, you sign the message, and maybe you send the message to a second system like Logic App, or you store your message, you will pick up the message again, wherever you want, but you sign the message. And every time internally you're going to pick up or use this message, you are going to verify the signature. Actually, the signature is a hash. So, sorry. When every time you verify the signature, if it's the same, then the message is the same. If the signature is not the same, the hash is not the same, it means somebody changed this message in some way. Then you need to discard this message immediately, because somebody maybe is conducting a made-in-the-middle attack. He's got this message, he's changed something, and giving you this message to a second system, right? And this may happen internally, right? So this is why signal to message is so important, and why API management is, in my opinion, the best stack to do this kind of operation, because it's, with API policy, you can do that very quickly, okay? Yes, I recommend the front door WAF. These are different things, because WAF is a firewall, right? Front door is a global load balancer, okay? You need to keep in mind, we don't have time, otherwise I can give you a quick picture, but actually you need to think about globally, you have front door, which is actually everything about HTTPS communication to your, so of course, you use Azure front door, HTTPS communication, all these kind of things is a global. And you also have another service global, which is Azure Traffic Manager. Everything, not everything, but HTTPS, it can be handled by Traffic Manager. So global, Azure front door, HTTPS, any protocol, Traffic Manager. When you go internal, regional, then you're going to change for Azure front door, HTTPS, regional, the application gateway, all right? Traffic Manager for any other protocol, internally, network load balancer. You need to keep this picture in your mind, and everything is going to be clear for you. When you want to protect your, this restrict the access, then you're going to with the Azure Firewall, WAF, all these kind of things, right? So there are different things, okay? Keep in mind this picture I gave you right now, and it's going to be very easy for you looking about architecture. How do you secure data from US president? How do you secure data from the US president? Talking about Cloud Act and a Scheme 2. Well, this is a tricky question, guys. Of course, level 5 I show you, this is one of the examples. So actually, you cannot look about something like that and secure data from US president. You can do that with Azure, okay? But as I show you in the last slide for the level 5, this is the kind of security you need to have, right? And this is why Microsoft is providing you now application service environment, all these kind of things, because this is the only one way you have to full isolate it. You need to do that using ASE, express route, these kind of things, full isolation at all. And usually when you're going to work, I did it. When you want to work at this level, Microsoft is going to provide a specific Azure agreement, which is actually something the only US government is able to provide you. So it's a completely different environment, even outside what you normally see as a, I would say, the global Azure, right? What do you think about integration runtime, which can send data from on-premise cloud via HTTPS? Is it unsafe, or is there a way to secure it? Yes, of course there is a way to secure it. The best way, you want a full secure, top VPN, that's it. Site-to-site VPN, closing, everything. AEC environment, put a VNet, site-to-site VPN on express route, that's it. This is the top level security you can achieve. I don't have anything more to say, to tell on that. Of course, HTTPS, everything, but if you want the top, this is what you have to do. A lot of security features that you have talked about require quite experience, expensive SKU. I know security was considered to be expensive, but the current cost of the premium service allow customer. Okay. We jump in this discussion. I'm very happy to jump in this discussion. So guys, I know security is expensive, but you don't have idea what's happened if you get hacked. You don't have idea. What I'm meaning is, this is not something you say, okay, I spent, I don't know, £5,000 for API management, advanced SKU, everything like that. But okay, guys, you are isolated. You have a lot of things. But if you get hacked, I can tell you, this is going to compromise your entire global infrastructure. I don't even think about, I saw people, guys, getting some very nasty hacking, and they are going to lose million. So when we speak about, I know there are some I mean, we need to consider this terminology expensive. What exactly mean expensive? It depending about your business, how much your business is important for you. See, if you are a business of £1 million, is this expensive using £20,000 or wherever it is using ASC, API management, HiSQ, all these kinds of things? It's not. It's absolutely not. And you can save money if you use a good governance. I show you the slide when I show you the slide with a single subscription, where you can concentrate and focus about using maybe one API management SKU. You can use one ASC, wherever in one single subscription. You can manage the access from on-premise, everything from there in your virtual network. So you are not going to pay more than one SKU, okay? Of course, if you have test, QA, UIT, everything, and you are going to put, I don't know, a high SKU for API management for each environment, of course, you are going to spend more than using a single subscription to access instead of 5 different subscriptions, right? Because you need to consider some of the service, they have license by subscription, like API management SKU or AAC, right? So you need to manage this kind of thing, organize your solution, integration solution, of course, like that. So something I recommend you is use at least two subscription for API management. One is for production, where all people access to the base subscription, and you push all the people from this to all the production environment, and use another subscription with development SKU for API management, which is going to be very good. There's a lot of free stuff in there, and just redirect via VNet peering in all the other subscription, right? That is the point. There is nothing really expensive, depending about your business. And security, you must be secure. Is obfuscation also mask a max or eternal log? No, it is not.
Covey.co